If you've been listening to me for a while, you know that I struggle with cardio. I love lifting weights and I've committed myself to lifting weights 3 to 4 times a week and have for years. It's not my problem. But cardio, on the other hand, has been a lifelong struggle for me. So last year I decided no more excuses. What did I have to do to make sure that I got in some cardio? And so I thought, okay, what stops me the most? Number one, boredom. I get really, really bored. I can't do the long treadmill at the gym thing for hours on end. And going for, great big long walks, as much as I actually don't mind those, finding the time was always a challenge and always my excuse. So my excuses were always boredom and time. And so I decided, okay, first things first, I'm going to get a standing desk. So I got a standing desk. It was a great success. So then I invested in an under desk treadmill so that I could just casually walk throughout the day while I was working. But this did not solve the high intensity interval training segment, which if you listen to all of the fitness enthusiasts out there on the social media and on the web, it is that we have to be getting some sort of HIIT exercise throughout the week for cardiovascular health as well as many other health aspects. And it's just that's so well known now. And I was not doing it. So I had a bunch of my girlfriends and business colleagues invest in, several of them invest in a Carol bike. So Dr. Mindy Pels, Dr. Amy Horniman, Molly Eastman, Danielle Hamilton. These are like my closest girlfriends in my business. And they all got their bikes. And so I decided, okay, I am going to get a bike, and it's not any kind of bike, folks. We are going to talk about this here today. This is a one of a kind. There's nothing like it on the market. Artificial intelligent REHIT stationary bike. And let me tell you, it's been a game changer. I am happy to say for 2 months, I have committed myself to what you're supposed to commit yourself to, which is 3 times a week of a REHIT exercise. And we're going to dive right into all of this and what that means and what that looks like and what it's doing for me. But my husband also jumped on board and has also committed successfully for 2 months to using his Carol bike. So I invited our guest on today to talk all about this, who is the creator and founder of the Carol bike. So our guest today is Ulrich Dempfle. Well, we're going to try and
Very
say that
good.
properly. We went through this before we started recording. It was close. Was that close, Ulrich?
That was excellent. Thank you so
Okay,
much.
great.
Yes.
It's a German name. So I was telling him I have a German background, so I should be able to pronounce this properly, even though I can't speak any German. But anyways, Ulrich, after graduating in mechanical engineering from Germany's leading tech university, worked with Europe's top automobile manufacturers. From there, he moved to London, where he pioneered the use of artificial for operational efficiency within UK health services. Watching a BBC documentary on reduced exertion HIIT, which is also known as REHIT, Ulrich realized its potential as the most effective cardio workout. The problem? REHIT was only possible in a lab setting. The solution? Ulrich co-founded Carol and worked with the world's leading exercise researchers to take REHIT out of the lab. 40 prototypes later, the world's only REHIT exercise bike was launched. Carol bike improved Ulrich's cardio health by 50%. He lost 10 kilograms and dropped his elevated blood pressure. He continues to lead all aspects of product development at Carol, using the latest science to drive innovation and help others optimize their health. So welcome, Ulrich, to the podcast.
Thank you so much for the kind introduction.
That is that's a very unique background to be where you are right now. Like
It's a
you went from
series
this like
of
engineering to
to healthcare. Yeah, and then,
Okay.
but there's some thought of thread in it. It is a series of coincidences. So I started out in automotive, as you do as a mechanical engineer in Germany. So I worked for BMW, Mercedes, and Volkswagen for a while. But then, due to family reasons, moved to London, and there's just not much automotive industry in London, and so got into healthcare and looking how to make healthcare better and more efficient for patients. And there, the number one thing you can do is prevention. That's really the big
Yeah.
lever in healthcare. So we were designing and managing and running programs for people with chronic diseases, so cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, and so on. And for that population, and for everybody else, really, exercise is the most important intervention. It's like the most
Yeah.
powerful thing you can do. The problem is just people don't do it. It's incredibly difficult to get people to exercise. So if you, they're crazy stats. It's less than 5% of Americans meet government guidelines for
Oh, wow.
aerobic exercise. So what you've said in your intro, you're really not alone. It's unfortunately very prevalent, very common. And so we firsthand had to deal with that issue and couldn't really solve it. And then there was a BBC show with Dr. Michael Mosley in 2012. So this is a while ago now, that showcased reduced exertion HIIT, reduced exertion high intensity interval training, and how efficient and effective it was, how quick it was. And for me, it was love on first sight. And the very next day, I went out and bought myself a regular exercise bike.
Yeah.
And I had paid close attention, kind of what the REHIT protocol was and how you'd have to do it. Got myself a bike that I thought that should do the trick, and tried it at home, and it was unfortunately nothing like as presented by the BBC on television. And so we instead of just giving up, we contacted the lead researchers that were on that show,
Yeah.
Professor Jamie Timmons and Dr. Niels Vollard, and asked them, why is it not as you've shown it? And the very, very first thing they said was, well, you need a special bike. And that was unfortunately not said on the television. So
No.
they use in their labs, or they used in their labs, lab equipment that was operated by a second person, a lab technician, an exercise physiologist, that coached their subjects through
Oh,
the workout and operated the bike for them, so that the right resistance gets applied at the right time, in the right way, like very rapidly. And when we experienced that, then yes, it was exactly as they showcased it. So
right.
very quick, very efficient, and actually quite doable. Um, but that was not a solution for a broad audience, for a mass
No.
market. And so we decided, well, there must be a better way. And
Mhm.
in a fit of madness, really, we decided, oh, let's develop a bike. And then, yes, it was a long and hard road, but we developed a bike, the Carol bike. And yes, it was about 40 prototypes, and it
40
was hard to
prototypes.
get it right. But we got there in the end, and we
Yeah.
launched in 2019 our first generation, in 2022 our second generation, and we're really happy that we have a bike that is fully optimized for REHIT, and that makes it simple and safe for almost anybody to do.
Right. Yeah, okay. First of all, why then where does the name Carol come from? Is it short for like is it an acronym or
Yes,
is this
it
somebody's
is. It
name?
is. So no, it's not. So before AI models were called ChatGPT, they had more creative names. So in Space Odyssey 2001, it was called HAL, heuristic algorithm, and with little
Oh,
dots. And then there was Vicky in another movie. Not, I don't remember the name now, but the AI characters had a name, and it was usually like an acronym, an abbreviation for something. And so we called our AI, Carol, as cardiovascular optimization logic. And
Oh.
that's the genesis, that's the origin of the name. It's a little bit nerdy, but we thought it was a fun thing to call it that way.
I appreciate it. I'm like, Carol, I couldn't see anywhere like where the Carol came from. So I wanted to ask you that.
Yeah.
So what's the difference? Because I don't understand this, is what's the difference between REHIT and HIT?
Yeah, sure. So REHIT is a new and improved form of HIT. So most people will be familiar with HIT, high intensity interval training. Um, and a typical HIT program lasts 20, 30 minutes. And while the benefits are beyond any doubt, it is actually extremely difficult for many people to do. So the rate of perceived exertion is very high, and that makes it a real obstacle for people to participate in that type of exercise. So REHIT was developed by scientists looking for the shortest, most effective, and accessible way to exercise. And research has proven that REHIT is that fastest way to get fit with very, very short workouts. So a REHIT session with Carol consists of only two 20-second sprints. And then you have a very light warm-up, recovery, and cool down. But the whole workout can be done in as little as 5 minutes. And you only have to work hard for two 20-second sprints. The rest is very, very, very light. And so where HIT offers high intensity training, REHIT offers maximum intensity training. You really push your body to your personal limits, very momentarily, but for that short moment, you go all out, and that makes you much fitter and stronger and creates a very, very potent training stimulus.
Okay, got it. Yeah, for people like myself, I can't believe that less than 5% of people do the recommended exercise. Like that's really sad. Is that primarily like North America, or are we talking like kind of worldwide that
No,
we're all
so that statistic, and this is from I cite one of the researchers that we collaborate with closely, that relates particularly to the US, but
okay?
it is a global phenomenon. So you don't feel isolated or singled out.
Mhm.
That that is just sadly there's a global um, uh, inactivity epidemic, really.
Mhm.
And all societies struggle with that. And if you ask people why they don't work out,
Mhm.
many scientific surveys have been done on that. The number one answer is always lack of time.
Mm.
Now, there is a debate in the scientific community whether lack of time really means lack of time or whether it's just an excuse, and whether we're
Yeah. Yeah.
lazy in inverted commas. Yeah. And there's an argument about that. However, if you consider how intense the competition for our time is these days,
Right.
yeah. So there's endless distractions. So you could spend all hours of the day on Netflix, TikTok, Instagram, and so on. And so the competition for our time is very, very intense. And there are trillion-dollar companies that are really, 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 really good at basically absorbing all our spare time. And we decided, no, we believe people when they say that lack of time is their main barrier. And we create a workout and give it a workout choice to overcome that hurdle and basically get a very, very effective workout, something like that gives the same benefits as a 45-minute run in as little as 5 minutes. Um, and that's our choice. There's others that try to, with entertainment and fancy music and celebrity instructors, compete with these other entertainment options, and that's a legitimate approach. But we believe this is kind of just our basic belief that you need to have something that's really short and effective, and that's very easy to fit into your life, and that's very easy to build a sticky routine and a healthy
Mhm.
habit, and to overcome this lack of time barrier and hurdle.
Yeah, I think we're very hardwired to not exert a lot of energy. Like I think just, we haven't changed much since hunter-gatherer days. And it was like, you wanted to always be preserving your energy because there was
Mhm.
always a lack of food. And so you didn't want to be doing these long stints. And so I just feel like we're so hardwired. And then now with our environment, it just feeds that like
Mhm.
it never has before, where it's just like, and so we're just so easily swayed over to that side of laziness and just finding something else that's more entertaining than exercise. And it's a shame. I hate it. I mean, like I said in my intro, it's something
Mhm.
I've struggled with my whole life because I'm just not one of those people that loves to exercise and do cardio.
Yeah.
I tried every sport and I just am like, oh, I can't get into it. And so something like this, I feel like you're meeting where society's at. And it's
Mhm.
like, this is the reality of our environment right now, which is we are prone to being lazy because everything is feeding that. It's the social media, like you said, the dopamine hits, like you get
Mhm.
crazy, all these chemicals released in your brain when you're doing things like scrolling Instagram. And
Mhm.
that's a lot more entertaining for your brain than going for a run.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know. I just think that for somebody like myself, and I just think for so obviously 95% of the society as well in North America and the USA
Mhm.
anyways. I'm in Canada, so I won't put myself in the Canadians are just as bad though. So yeah.
Ugh.
But I just think you're meeting where we're at. And so I think that was really smart of you guys to go, okay, what can we do here to meet where society is, which is we
Mhm.
don't have the time, or at least we're saying we don't have the time, and we don't have the attention span anymore. So what can we do to solve this problem? You must have been like, when you first started this, like 40 prototypes later, you must have just been like so many times going, what am I doing? Like,
Yeah, yeah, and it was obviously there's really it was a journey, and
yeah.
we started in 2012, literally. So yes, there
Wow.
a lot of energy has gone into this to make it a reality, but we
Yeah.
think we've got now um, something that really works and is a well-rounded package for a consumer to do basically a lab grade super efficient workout in their own home, and therefore having something that you can stick to, and that will fit into your day. No matter what happens, you will always find that time to get your workout in.
Yeah, my friends and I have now called Carol bike the no excuse bike. That's what we're
Mhm.
calling it now because you really can't. You cannot find an excuse not to do it 5 minutes. And it's
Yeah.
not, this was what was interesting for me is I didn't even know what I was buying, Ulrich. I just was listening to my friends and they were like,
Mhm.
no, you got to get on board with this. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna try this. And um it
Mhm.
wasn't till I met with one of your staff, because I think
Yeah,
somebody meets with, if you buy a bike, does somebody always meet with you?
that's right.
Is
So
that kind of
you
part of
can,
it?
yeah, exactly, like an onboarding session. You can talk to
Yeah.
them before you purchase a bike, or you can and you definitely should talk to them after you purchase the bike
Yes.
to get you off to a great start. So those would be um, team members with an MSc in exercise physiology that kind of in your as you explore can advise you whether it's the right choice for you, but also to get you off to a good start. So that's really important for us to have
Yeah.
that personal introduction, that you're not just um, left with the. I mean, we have the tutorials and the instructions and all of that, but we feel it's more helpful is that if there's actually like a personal induction and introduction to the workout, to the bike, and
Yeah, what it
to get people
entails.
off. Yeah, exactly.
Because I was really not informed about it well enough. And so I really, when I first started using it, I was just using it. And I was
Well,
like, so, and when I met with one of your staff, I was like, so is this just like a Peloton? Because I've never used a Peloton. I have
mm,
no idea about Peloton. He's like, no. And I was like, oh. So he was
yeah,
like, let
no.
me tell you. And I'm like, oh my God, here I thought that I was just doing my own HIIT kind of
Mhm,
exercise routine, kind of following along on the screen. And we'll talk about
mhm,
everything that it entails. But and
yeah,
he went on to explain, like, it comes with a heart monitor strap.
yeah, yeah.
And so I didn't realize, and I want you to talk about this, is how the artificial intelligence piece of it
Mhm,
is that it is not allowing you to adapt.
mhm,
And so for somebody like myself, I'm very lazy with that kind of thing.
mhm.
I'm always the person that's like, I 8 reps. Okay. I think that's enough, and I won't go to the 10 because, I don't push myself very hard. And same
Uh,
with like, especially with cardio, I
yeah,
don't push myself. And so this is forcing me to push myself. So can you explain how that works?
yeah, yeah. Oh, there's so many things to unpack here. So I mean, really, I guess we have two types of customers, or we have many types of customers, because it is actually through the AI really suitable for any age and fitness level. We have top level athletes who use it and for whom it is a challenge, and we have less fit people like my 81-year-old mother who
Wow.
uses it every other day. So it's really suitable for a very wide range of fitness levels. Um, and then, yes, some people just buy it as part of a recommendation. And it's like, oh, everybody's talking about that. Maybe I should get one too. And then we have others who do all the research and who are very skeptical and go through our entire website, which has really a lot of detail, read all the scientific papers that we reference, because it's all backed by science and there's
Yeah.
years of studies behind it, and then get a bike to see for themselves. Yeah, so we have different. Everybody comes to it differently. Um, Now the how REHIT works and how the AI works. Maybe I just talk a moment about that. So REHIT is so effective because you push to your limits, even though it's very very short. You push to your limits, and that simulates almost like a fight or flight situation. Yeah, like running for your life or fighting for your life for a brief moment, and um, that that triggers. So what really happens is you ramp up your energy demand massively in a fraction of a second from zero or from your baseline to 100-fold greater. And you force your muscles to use muscular glycogen, which is a sugar, a storage form of sugar in your muscles. And your body, because it notices this massive increase in energy demand,
Mhm.
releases lots and lots of glycogen, more than it actually needs for those very short sprints.
Mm.
And bound to the glycogen are certain signaling molecules, primarily AMPK. And that triggers other signaling molecules downstream, PGC1 alpha. And that kicks off a whole cascade of physiological adaptation. And that creates basically a very, very powerful stimulus, training stimulus, that creates the same benefits as a 45-minute run would do. And that's
Okay.
that's why REHIT works in
Mhm.
an abbreviated form. We could, if you want, we can geek out completely, but that's like the shorter form. But the so what you have to do is, in those 2 20-second sprints, as short as they are, we want you to really push to your limits.
Right.
And that's one why you need a special bike, because to reach that maximum intensity, you need to apply your optimal resistance. That's kind of different for everybody, very different for my mom versus for me. Um, then you want to accelerate before the resistance applies. So you pedal as fast as you can before the resistance applies. And then the machine, the bike, will automatically apply the optimal resistance in a fraction of a second. And that will get you to your peak. This is how you achieve maximum intensity. And then you push for as long as you can through those 20 seconds. And based on your performance and the shape of the curve, because we have by far the largest REHIT database in the world,
Wow.
our AI algorithms can determine whether the resistance should be higher, lower, or stay the same for you. And therefore will adjust the workout every time you get on the bike. And therefore the workout remains challenging and
Yeah.
effective on an ongoing basis, because yeah, as you get fitter and stronger, so we find the optimum for you, and then as you get fitter and stronger, we keep adjusting it, like making it harder. Or also, if you had an injury, or you were traveling for a while and you lost some of your fitness gains, and that unfortunately happens, yeah, it will also make it easier, and therefore you will always have a optimal personalized workout that gets you maximum health and fitness benefits in minimum time.
Wow. I was telling my sister about this. She's a fitness enthusiast. And so she was like, okay, tell me about this Carol bike. I'm looking at
Mhm.
getting one. And so I was telling her, I'm like, for somebody like myself, I feel like I'm being given a personal trainer because
Yeah.
it's like something is making me exceed my limits that I think that those are my
Mm.
limits, and they're not. And so you have this, like, the artificial intelligence is constantly changing and moving. And your guy
Mm.
was telling me, he's like, yeah, if it picked up that you didn't do as well, then
Mm.
it's going to read that so that the next time you go to do your
Yes.
bike, it may adjust it down a little bit so that it's
Yes.
not quite as hard. Or
Mm.
if you exceeded, then it's
Mm.
going to adjust automatically. Like, you don't, everybody
Yeah.
listening, you don't touch anything. Like,
Mm.
the bike does everything for you. So there's no like, oh, I'm going to put my arrow up and make this more challenging. No, the bike is going to do this for you. And
Mm.
it's wild. You think, really, can I really be getting this much out of this? Because when you're not
Mm.
sprinting, Ulrich, you're just like, you're doing
Yeah.
this really easy, and it actually tells you to slow down. It'll be
Yeah.
like, go a little bit slower. And I'm like, what? Really? Go slower? And so I'm like, okay, I'll go a
Yeah.
little bit slower. And it's like, tells you how to breathe. And it'll be like, breathe in, deep breath,
Mm.
breathe out. And then it starts to, the whole screen, it's all, you get this like little tablet with it. The whole screen lights up bright orange. And it's like, get ready because you're
Mm.
about to sprint, start pedaling faster. And then, like you said, that hits the
Yeah.
triggers the bike to give you that resistance. And then you're just like, you got to go all out as much as you can. And you can watch your graph, and then it
Mm.
records it over a period of time. And then you can start to see where the health benefits have
Yeah.
improved because it's reading this. And you can have all different views.
Mm.
So my husband has his own dashboard, I've got my own. So
Mm.
it's that can be separated, which is really nice. But let's get into what you're seeing in like a couple of months time. Like, what you guys have done so much science. So I pulled up a
Mm.
bunch of the stuff that you guys have studied. So let's talk first about the yeah, 15 minutes a week. So that's
Mm.
5 minutes 3 times a week, basically,
Yeah.
right?
Mm.
Doubling the gains in 90% less time.
Yeah.
So, oh,
So
that's
yeah, let me provide a little bit of
yeah,
details on that. So there's a long list of benefits that you see, and that's just reflective of how important and fundamental exercise is.
right.
Um, but the headline benefits are one, your cardiorespiratory fitness, and that's measured as your VO2 max. VO2 max is your ability to burn oxygen during exercise,
Okay.
and it is probably the most important health marker. So it's the strongest correlate to life expectancy. And so it's really, if you looked for one health marker that is, mm, maybe most important, VO2 max would probably be it.
Is the
And
heart rate monitored? picking up on that? Or-
So that's right. Yes.
okay.
The
Okay.
heart rate monitor helps us to provide a score. We call it the fitness score
Yeah.
that it's not the same as VO2 max because that's like we can go into the depth, but it's been designed to track VO2 max. So if your
Okay.
fitness score goes up by 10%, you can be confident that your VO2 max has improved by 10%. So that's how
Got it.
we've designed it. But it's not the same, but it's
Mhm.
a measure that tracks it. We also have on the bike specific VO2 max testing protocols. So you can also like periodically do these VO2 max tests if you're really into your metrics. But with each REHIT ride, you get this fitness score that tracks VO2 max. And so what scientific studies have shown, and what we see in our user data, is that in an 8-week period, you can improve your VO2 max by over 12% with only three REHIT rides per week. And that's very substantial. So that's very
Yeah.
noticeable. It's nice to have a metric, but it's something you can feel. So it's like the quantification. Many people like it. It brings almost like a little bit like a gamified thing, and you can compete to kind of better your scores. And yes, my mother, she texts me always her scores after she did a ride. Yeah, that's very funny.
That's so
Um,
great.
so it's many people like those, but really you do feel it. Yeah. Um, and in terms of how that compares to regular exercise, so we did, or not we did, Western University in Colorado did a head-to-head randomized controlled trial with our equipment and 3 REHIT rides per week against another group that did 5 times 30 minutes jogging per week. So they spent a lot more time. So they spent 150 minutes, and with our bike, you could do it in 15 minutes.
Wow.
And in terms of results, the control group achieved also a respectable improvement, 6.9% improvement in VO2 max. But with our bike, you got 12.3% with substantially less time.
Wow.
So that's the first, is cardiorespiratory fitness and VO2 max. So that's really important and very worthwhile. It's incredible ROI on your time for sure.
Yeah.
The second kind of high level benefit or top level benefit that people care about is metabolic health.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and that again in the same study has been shown that the risk of developing metabolic diseases like type 2 diabetes was reduced by 62%, again in only 8 weeks. That's the same kind of risk reduction you'd expect from taking prescription medication like metformin or so, just without the side effects or the cost for ongoing medical treatment. So
Right.
it's very substantial. And again, so
Yeah.
there the control group had, they also saw a significant risk reduction. Again, just showing how important exercise really is. They had 26.8% risk reduction, but we had 62%. So yeah, we were
That's substantial.
very happy and how should I say? Yeah, no, that really I mean, it was a big milestone for us.
Yeah.
That study was carried out by Western University, Colorado, was independently commissioned by the American Council on Exercise to basically verify whether this really works. There has been lots of studies in the lab, but those were in controlled in environments where you had an exercise physiologist next to you, and we wanted to see, does it work basically in on our automated equipment where you don't have a personal trainer
Yeah.
next to you all the time.
Yeah. In the privacy of your own home with nobody to
Mm,
influence it. And then you also found that blood pressure was lowered by
yeah,
5%.
exactly. So this risk reduction. It uses it's called the METS Z score. So that's a
Mm.
medical score that's used to determine the risk of for an individual to develop metabolic diseases, and it's based on a basket of physiological markers. So it's blood pressure, HDL cholesterol, good cholesterol, triglycerides, waist circumference, and blood sugar. And yes, all of those improved, and all of those improved substantially more than in the control group. And for blood pressure, it was a 5% reduction in blood pressure. And that's something that you alluded to that's something that I mean, all of those I've personally experienced and kind of seen firsthand just how beneficial it is.
Mhm.
Because so for me, that meant that a slightly elevated blood pressure came into an optimal range without medication.
Wow, because that's something that I see every day in our clinic, which is women in midlife. All of
Mm,
those markers go up because of the loss of their hormones. So we see blood pressure going up, we see cholesterol, bad cholesterol going up, and good cholesterol going down. We see triglycerides going up, we see blood sugar. It's just like across the board. I think every
mm,
woman, they hit that 40s, 50s. Always their blood sugar goes up. Mine did, and I hadn't changed anything, and it went up
yeah.
an entire point, and it was like, what? I had perfect blood sugar my whole life, and then suddenly I'm, almost to the
Mm,
point that I'm insulin resistant, and I was so mad. I was like, what is this? Like, so the fact that it can target those problems is such a
mm,
great thing for my audience.
mm,
Now, a lot of my audience, unlike myself, are extremely fit. They are already, they do spin class,
mm,
they're out there running, they're doing marathons, they're like super athletic women. How does it benefit that group? That, because it's not my group, but there's a lot of women that,
mm,
like you said, you're used, there was a study with Olympic athletes, or just like testimonials of Olympic athletes. I
mm,
know my husband, he's a big hockey player. He's
mm,
47, and he's been, with his decline of, with aging, and he can't believe the difference in his skating. He's like, I have completely noticed a difference in 2 months from the Carol bike. He said, because
yeah.
when I suddenly have to start to skate super fast down the ice, he's like, I can go so fast, so
Mhm.
much faster now because of
Yeah.
the Carol bike.
So that's great to hear. And so one thing in terms of our users and who's using the Carol bike is a very wide range. So we obviously we have the time poor executives that really just have only 5 minutes, or we have people who don't enjoy workouts because of boredom or because they have other obligations. So busy moms and so on. But we do have quite a lot, surprisingly many actually, exercise enthusiasts as well in our user group. So when we
Mhm.
initially brought the bike to market, we actually thought it was for busy executives, busy moms, people who don't like exercise. But no, that's not the case. It's very much so. We have a substantial share of our users are actually also exercise enthusiasts who want that really powerful stimulus in the mix and have it like as an additional tool to kind of stay in really good shape, um, or who use it like for, how do you say, for off-season conditioning, and so as a fallback option. So who enjoy going for a long run but are not always able to go for a long run, and then it's very good to have something short to fit in and to fall back on. In terms of the scientific evidence, so the scientific evidence is mostly done, or most of the scientific evidence is done with people who had sedentary lifestyles or moderately active lifestyles. There's very few studies that have been done with top level athletes. You're
Right.
right. We have some former Olympic athletes. We have some professional teams that use the Carol bike, or like clinics that work with professional teams. So in LA, we 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 actually have a few hockey players on our leaderboard, like
Yeah.
pro hockey players on our leaderboard, because they work with some of the facilities that have our bike. Um, but there's less kind of larger scale scientific studies. And of course, if somebody trains already 30 hours a week, then you ask how much additional benefit will they get. So then it's more kind of like an alternative tool rather than something in German we say the trees don't grow into the sky. There's obviously something that if somebody is already maximized the training
Right.
stimulus they put into their body, at some point they will hit a plateau. So we see that the most benefit come in the first 6 to 8 weeks, where on average it's 12% improvement in VO2 max. Then after 20%, people reach about 20%, no, sorry, 20 weeks. So another 12 weeks, they reach up to 20%, or an average of 20% improvement. But not everybody will turn into an Olympic marathon runner.
Right.
That's, I think, and no, nobody would expect that, I don't think.
But you hear from, I always say, like, it's great to have the research and proper research done, but
Mm,
we should never discount clinical experience or the word of your
yeah.
customers, right? And what they're
Mm,
saying. So what do you hear from people that are more athletic and, do they get like the improvements in their workouts outside of the Carol bike? Are they seeing something?
mm. So the our there certainly some of our top athletes are very avid users,
Okay.
and use the Carol bike regularly to stay in top condition and basically maintain peak fitness. Um, that's but this doesn't go to so far that I could mm, yeah guarantee that if somebody is
Of course.
already
Yeah.
putting in if
All
somebody
that
does already
effort.
30 hours of training, including HIIT training, then I I
It's a little
wonder.
harder to measure. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Because
That's
they're
the kind
already
of the
superheroes.
yeah, exactly. So I would not expect that. Then it's rather about, can I shorten my training regime and get the same
Yeah.
kind of achieve the same fitness levels with less stress on my body, for example. That's a very valid thing. Or
Yeah.
if I
Yeah.
had injuries or so, can I have that? Or if because there is such a thing as overtraining, and the reduced exertion part of it means that the level of stress you put on your body. So while you have this very powerful stimulus, you can actually achieve it with less stress on your body, because the overall amount of exertion and the time of this the length of the sprints is so short, is actually kind of then a lot less stressful than other modes of training.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about that. Have you guys done like have you tested like cortisol levels and adrenaline, like kind of before and after, and kind of compared it to the typical cardio bunny, as we like to call them, the women that think they have to
Mm,
do 2 hours of cardio a day. And I know that like as we age as menopausal women, those long cardio sessions a lot of the time are
mhm.
being more of a detriment than they are of like a health bonus, because of the stress on the system. I mean, we're way less tolerable to, like, we can't tolerate
Mhm.
that kind of exercise as we age.
Yeah, yeah. So we've not done original research on that,
Yeah.
but yes, certainly that. So long endurance cardio can increase cortisol levels and can induce actually like an unhealthy stress um, in your system, and that is when we discuss that with our researchers, the expectation that the amount of stress and therefore the cortisol response would be much better through REHIT versus long steady state cardio. Um, so yeah, even though we haven't done the primary research, that would be the logical thing to presume.
Yeah, because you had said too, like when we're doing our rehab and we're going for that 20-second sprint, it
Mm,
is putting our system into the fight or flight, correct?
that's correct, exactly, and that is kind of a yeah momentary but
Yeah.
intense disruption of homeostasis. So
Yeah.
we have to stress our body
Yes.
to get this response and to get an adaptation. But it's a hormetic stress and it's very, very short. And therefore, tolerate it very well, and doesn't put an unhealthy amount of stress onto your system, onto your body.
And then does when we are in between our sprints and it's telling us
Mm.
how to breathe, which are really long breaths
Mm.
in and long breaths out. So is that kind of quickening the process up of taking ourselves from that fight or flight and
Mm.
immediately getting the system back into that parasympathetic mode, which is rest and digest?
So yes, absolutely. That's exactly what it's meant to achieve. So this
Mm.
with a so very mindful breathing pattern, and ideally with a 4-second inhale, 6-second exhale, like directly after the sprint, you won't be able to follow that. So the breath pacer adjusts. That is a nervous system balancer. So the sprint is obviously very sympathetic and fight or flight. But then to activate the parasympathetic nervous system, that's what the breath pacer and this kind of 4-second inhale, 6-second exhale with the little break at the top is meant to stimulate. And yes, there are studies to back that up, that this breathing pattern with exhale focus, so long mindful breathing with a focus on the exhalation, that does in fact stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system. And
I
I
like
think
that.
it's actually it's also quite noticeable. I find that, and this is something I experience every single ride, and I use I use the bike as much as my mom. So I do this very religiously 3 times a week. That's our recommendation. You don't have to do it more. You can do it more. There's not much downside, but it's 2 to 3 times per week. That's the recommendation. And when I follow the breath pacer and really focus on my breathing in the recovery and cool down, my heart rate drops much faster and to lower levels than if I'm not mindful about it and just, I don't know, like pant, breathe
Yeah.
heavily without any second thought to it. So I find it, just personal experience, that this is something that absolutely works.
Yes. Now, what about the weight loss piece? Because all of the
Mm.
midlife women, we're all looking to lose weight. And
Yes.
the bike does give
Yes.
you the option, everybody,
Mm.
to not do REHIT. Like you can do a free
Yeah.
ride, you can do 20 minutes, you can pick all these different rides. So the
Yes.
REHIT
Yes.
is a set of different REHIT sessions. So you can do like
Mm.
three 10-second sprints, two 15-second sprints,
Yes.
or you can do these longer rides that will adjust it for you, or you can free ride and just decide how hard you want it to
Yeah.
be.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, because I read on your site that REHIT can boost your metabolic rate for hours. In fact,
Mm.
66% of the calorie burn will happen after your Carol bike workout.
Yeah. 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 So again, there's a bit to unpack. So yes, most of our customers buy a Carol bike because of REHIT. That's a kind of our claim to fame,
Yeah.
and we've totally optimized the bike for REHIT. At the same time, it's a very versatile bike. We have at the moment 21 scientific workouts. So this is kind of the inclusion criteria. There needs to be good. If there's good science for workout, then we're quite happy to include it on the bike. And there are also new workouts added from time to time, but they need to have a scientific foundation and
Ah.
scientific backing. Um, and then you can use it with a bunch of third-party apps. So you can use it with Peloton Digital if you want, or you can use it with YouTube, Netflix. You can use it with cycling apps. So this is usually middle-aged men in Lycra and a carbon road bike. They love Swift, and you can use it for that too. But the claim to fame is really REHIT.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in terms of calorie burning, so many people do sport, cardio, also to burn calories. Now, the two 20-second REHIT sprints, they're so short
Mm-hmm.
that you don't burn very many calories
Mm-hmm.
during the workout. And in fact, many people, not all people, but many people don't even sweat because
Mm-hmm.
you sweat when your body temperature rises, and your body temperature goes up with a calorie burn, essentially. So during the ride, the calorie consumption and the calorie burn is modest, but then for 90 to 120 minutes after the ride, your metabolic rate is elevated. And yes, we have good scientific studies that show that 2/3, 66% of the calorie consumption, the calorie burn happens after you get off the bike. So for me, now for me, it's about 210 calories, including the afterburn, that I get out of a 5-minute REHIT ride. So that's meaningful. My baseline calorie consumption would be maybe around 2,000 calories. So therefore, having 10% extra just from 5 minutes, that's meaningful.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And for others, it will be a little bit less because I'm probably a little bit bigger and stronger than others, but it's meaningful. However, when it comes to weight loss, like, be under no illusion, nutrition is number one. So what you eat and how much you eat will be much more important than how much you exercise, even if it's on a highly efficient machine like the Carol bike. So if you want to, for weight management and weight reduction, nutrition is king.
Yeah.
Another, however, is though that I believe, and I think that's borne out, that REHIT supports it and makes weight management easier. So when you, and this is what has been shown, is that it improves your insulin sensitivity.
Yeah.
And if you're not insulin resistant, if you have good insulin sensitivity, it is easier for you to access stored energy. Whereas if you're insulin resistant, it becomes quite hard to access energy stored in your fat stores, in your adipose tissue. So I don't do this terribly often, but I can from time to time I fast for or do this fasting mimicking. I find that's more tolerable for 5 days. And surprisingly, I don't actually feel terribly hungry because I feel I can access
because you're
the energy. Yeah, exactly.
Healthy.
Because I can access the energy that's stored in my fat tissue. And therefore I have energy. I'm not starving. My brain's not starving.
Right.
And that's what I attribute to this benefit of having better insulin sensitivity. And that's certainly something that REHIT encourages. And so therefore it's for sure a helpful thing to do in parallel, but number one must be nutrition. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm glad you said that. I agree.
There's no
you
two
can't
ways
outrun
about
your
it.
a healthy
No,
diet.
absolutely not.
Or
Absolutely
bike. You
not.
can't outbike a healthy diet.
No. And then at some point it becomes unhealthy. Like I heard people talk about exercise bulimia, where they think like, oh, I run now on the treadmill really hard for 45 minutes and then I can have that donut or so. And that's not a healthy way to deal with it. So I think it's a healthy diet is first, and then the exercise helps you. And exercise has so many. So I think sleep, exercise, nutrition, like those are really fundamental things, that fundamental pillars of a healthy lifestyle that you need. And then it fits together and you'll benefit from the combination.
Yeah, it's more of like that overall, it's going to help with that in the long run kind of thing. I guess it might not directly make you burn a substantial amount of calories, but over the long term, what it's doing for your mitochondria, for your, like your all the metabolic markers, your blood pressure, your insulin sensitivity, cardiovascular health, like all of these things, you start to see an improvement in, which then in turn helps you to maintain a healthier weight.
Yeah. And so I totally understand that weight management is important, and it's so important kind of how we see ourselves and how comfortable we feel in our skin. So absolutely, that's important. But in some ways, it is a little bit misguided to think, oh, I'm going to exercise to lose weight.
Mhm.
So because it's really just, there's so many more benefits and fundamental benefits to exercise than just weight loss and weight management. That it would be, yeah, there's just so much more to it. In fact,
Mhm.
there has been a big study on with many thousands of participants over many years about the mortality from certain attributable causes. And inactivity, so lack of exercise, inactivity leads to more avoidable deaths than smoking, diabetes, and obesity combined. So the health benefit of exercise, or the basically damage you do to your health if you're not exercising and if you have a very inactive lifestyle, is actually much worse and
Wow.
has much greater impact than just this very visible thing about weight. Yeah. So it is very
Wow.
profound.
It is very profound. That kind of scares me a little bit because I've not been on top
Oh,
of
but
that.
no, let's
It's
do
good. It's good.
kind of on a positive
It's a
note.
reality
It's
check.
entirely addressable, and there are
Right.
ways how to address that. So yes, it is severe and significant, and inactivity is really an epidemic, but there is something we can do about it, and there's
Mhm.
something you can do about it, and that's
Mhm.
I think a slightly more positive message.
Well, and for me, that was part of my mindset shift was I had to find a different reason to do cardio than lose weight because my whole
Hmm.
life it was, until I knew better. I
Hmm.
remember in my 20s and my early 30s, I always thought I have to be a runner in order to lose weight. And I would try to go out there and run and it would last, 2 days. And I'd be like, forget it. I hate this. Like every
Mm.
second I hated. And I would always beat myself up and think, oh, I'm never going to be skinny because I won't run and I can't do
Mm.
cardio. And so it was just always in my head, those two things together, like cardio equaled weight loss. And then
Yeah.
once I became a nutritionist and understood weight loss and metabolic health a lot more, it was like, oh no, it's really about the nutrition first and
Mm.
foremost. And then I just kind of, it's like I put the cardio to the side because I was like, oh, I can actually lose weight if I, watch my hormones and eat better and lift weights.
Hmm.
And so I had to change the mindset and go, cardiovascular disease is the number one killer of women.
Yeah.
And I have to be careful about that, and I wasn't doing any cardio at all. Like in the
Mm.
springtime, I would start walking and that would be it because of where I am. I just like too hot in the summer, too cold in the winter was my excuse to not get outside and get any exercise done. So I had to change it and go for the future of my health and my metabolic health. I have to somehow incorporate high intensity
Yeah.
training.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And
Carol's been a great answer for that.
yeah, that's wonderful to hear. That's wonderful to hear. And I mean, in fact, I spend probably more time weightlifting, and I also go sometimes for a run. So I certainly I do a fair amount of exercise by now. And Carol was in a way like an entry level drug. How do you call it? I don't know, but it's um, the thing is, like running is not all that easy either. So I do Carol 3 times a week, and then not every weekend, but maybe 2 out of 3. I do a 5K run on the weekend when I take the kids to football, to soccer.
Yep.
Um, but that is psychologically, I find also quite taxing if I for 25 minutes or so um, want to run at a decent pace, because every single step I have this little dialogue in my brain going like keep going,
Yeah.
and it's like for 25 minutes I need a really high degree of discipline to not stop and start walking.
Yes. Yeah, me too.
And people have like joint problems and this and that, so there
Mhm.
are barriers there too, versus these 2 20-second sprints. um, they have become quite easy for me. They're not easy in the sense that like no effort. No, you do go hard and
Yes.
you exert yourself fully in those 2 20-second sprints. But somehow the pain, if I call it that way,
Yeah,
the pain only kicks in once the sprint is almost over. So it's quite easy to push for
exactly.
that short period, and then kind of if you
Yeah,
get
it's
like to
those
50,
last few seconds
60.
that I just
Yeah,
die.
exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. And then but by the time it hurts, and I call it this now, by the time it hurts, you're almost done. So
Yes.
that's
Yeah,
very good. And
I
that
put my
makes
head
it
down now, Ulrich, and so I don't look at the 20 seconds, or if I choose, like, I've tried them all. I've done like the 3 10 seconds to see which
uh-huh.
one I can handle better. But I'll actually like put my head down and I just think to myself, like, 20 seconds is nothing, and I just think, but it's always, I'm like, Jesus, this is the longest 20 seconds of my life when I get to the end of it. And then it's like, it's done. Oh, okay.
Yes,
Whew,
yes. That
but
that
my
sounds
legs are
familiar.
shaky afterwards. Like, you
Mhm.
do feel like you get something from it
Oh
for
yeah. Oh
sure,
yeah.
hands
Yeah.
down.
Of course. Of course. Everybody. So seeing is believing, or feeling is believing. So very clearly,
Right.
once you've tried it, you will understand how 2 20 seconds can be so effective, because yes, it is a good workout. It's just incredibly quick, and psychologically you're almost done. Yeah, you're literally done by the time it gets hard. So yes, but once you've done it, you will, people have no doubt that yes, that will be effective.
Yeah. Well, and you guys, as we talked about before, there's a really great support system with the Carol bike. So
Mhm.
if you're thinking to yourself, ladies, like, hey, this does sound interesting to me, I want to know more, I'm going to link to everything in the show notes. So you can get on a call with somebody prior to purchasing the bike if you need to
Mhm.
talk about it, which I do recommend doing. Or if you do
Mhm.
get the bike, definitely talk to somebody, because that was really eye-opening. And I was so happy to be told how the bike worked and all of the benefits. And
Mhm.
because then it really does invigorate you to, like,
Yeah.
okay, I really want to do this. And now speaking to you, Ulrich, now I'm even more pumped. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go get on my Carol bike after this.
Good.
And you're right,
Good.
you don't, like, I don't sweat normally anyways. Like, I'm just, I
Mhm.
have thyroid problems, so I've always never been a sweater. But
Mhm.
even if you are, you'd be tough to break a really bad
Mhm.
sweat.
Yeah.
And my friend Dr. Amy Horniman, I saw her on Instagram the other day riding her Carol bike, and she was saying, like, her hair's all done, she's got a blouse on, and she's like, you're probably wondering why I'm working out when I'm dressed so
Yeah.
nice. And she's
Yeah.
like, this is
Yeah.
the beauty of the Carol bike. She's like, you don't have to change into your sport wear, just get on the bike. And because
Mhm.
it's 5 minutes, right? And she's like, because I got to go to work right after this. And so I have been doing that. I've been like leaving my work in the middle of the day and just going and getting on the bike for 5 minutes. And it's always a nice break to have that.
Mhm.
But I don't have to change. I can just get on and do it as is.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. So yes, and thank you for making that recommendations. It's a we have lots of information on our website.
Lots, yeah.
Um,
And all the
and
studies
and
are
and
there.
yeah, exactly. And but then you're very welcome to talk with one of our staff. So they will be qualified to give you good advice and discuss with you whether it's right. And then there's one other thing. So if you do decide that it's that's something you want to try and that you want to purchase a bike, we offer actually an industry leading, we call it risk-free trial. So you can get the bike, and then you have 100 days to see whether you like it, whether you can stick to it. Definitely enough time to see whether you get the benefits, whether it works for you. And if it's not for you, then you can also call us and return the bike, and you'll get a full refund. So therefore, making that purchasing decision a little bit less, a bit easier, because
Mhm.
um, we don't operate showrooms, and therefore we feel we have to give our customers that additional reassurance um, that they will be getting something that's right for them.
Mhm. And I have a coupon code too, which I will talk about in the intro, I think, because I can't remember what that is.
That's all right. Yeah, yeah. Thank you. No, I'm sure. that we would want to give a discount to your listeners. That's for sure the case.
Okay, yes, I should have checked on that, but I'll put it in the intro, and I'm going to put it in the show notes, everybody, with my code and the link to the Caro bike, and definitely check it out. I love that you guys give 100-day trial. I think that that's excellent.
Mhm.
That's like more than enough. I think you guys are going to know within a couple of weeks if it's
Oh,
for you or not, for sure. But this has been really great. I've really enjoyed this conversation, and it's something I haven't talked about here on this podcast is HIIT. So we talk a lot about weightlifting, and so I've, you know,
mm,
it was due time, Ulrich, due time for me to talk about this. So I
yeah.
appreciate you coming on the show. And if you guys do buy one, let me know. I want to hear about. You can DM me on Instagram and let me know what you think of your Carol bike. And I'm sure, and I'll pass it along to Ulrich and his team so that they
Thank
can
you.
hear about it. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you.